Credit management company SACE has released a new assessment on business risks in South Africa and other emerging markets. It's assessed the emerging markets with a few variables and looks at how risky investment in these countries may be. Now, to talk about what the results, and what the assessment means, I'm joined by Michael Creighton from SACE South Africa. Michael, thanks a lot for chatting to us.
Pleasure.
Now, I believe South Africa was assessed among countries like Turkey, Indonesia, India and Brazil. But what were some of the components you looked at when you measured risk?
We looked at a number of key areas, including macroeconomic principles and policies, financial issues, political issues, insolvencies in those markets, and then the ease of doing business in those markets. And it was based on that assessment and a cross-mixture of results from those assessments that we drew our conclusions.
All right. Now, of course, the obvious question is how did South Africa then compare to other countries, other emerging markets?
In total, we looked at 10 emerging markets, and South Africa came out in the higher risk section, so in the worst part of that portfolio of markets that we looked at.
What were some of the components or measurements that led to this rather bleak performance?
Well, in 4 of the areas we weren't too bad, but in one key area that we performed badly, and that's the financial risks. And the reason for that is that South Africa is running fairly large current account deficit. And as a result of that deficit, we are very much reliant on capital flows into the country. And with the current liquidity crisis that we're experiencing, that is quite dangerous, that you're relying on foreign inflows of money into the country. And because of that, and out of all the 10 countries that we looked at, our current account deficit as a percentage of GDP was the highest. On top of that, of the capital flows that are coming into the country, we're very much reliant on portfolio investments that are coming into the country and less reliant on financial direct foreign investments into South Africa. So with the portfolio flows coming in, with the liquidity crisis and general concerns internationally, there is a risk that people will stop or hold back that money and be more cautious as to where they spend where they invest the money.
How serious is this? I mean, should this be cause for concern? And has the business fraternity in South Africa digested that indeed there is a problem here, and now we're doing anything about it?
I think most of the business area knows that there are risks, and we are trying to address it. I think we also have to realize that at the moment there are so many dynamics that are taking place internationally that it is very difficult to be on top of everything. But certainly we need to be aware that we have a risk in that area, and we need to really try and attract far more direct foreign investment in South Africa, which can be withdrawn it's more slow to withdraw that than portfolio investments. So if we can attract foreign investment, then I think we will be moving in the right direction.
Now let's just look at some of the other components or areas that were measured. Political risk, I see in the findings, came out to be quite favorable, but was this done before this government events that unfolded in recent months in South Africa, or was it done after? Does it have any effect whatsoever?
It was done before the recent changes and developments in South Africa, but at the moment we haven't changed our perception on South Africa as a political risk, and we still see it as a reasonably good political risk. And the reason for that is that, power play between politicians and the likes is fairly common and standard throughout the world and in good markets. So from that point of view, we don't see a higher risk yet. But the international world is certainly watching and monitoring South Africa, and they are watching with interest to see whether there are changes in policies. And at the moment, we also did quite well on the economic side of things, and as long as there's no changes in economic policies, then politically we will still be seen as a reasonably good risk.
I see you've measured regulation and attitude towards foreign investors as well. How fair did we come out in that section?
We actually did very well. So in ease of doing business, and for foreign companies to come and start businesses in South Africa, or to buy an shareholding into the South African companies is relatively good and relatively easy. So that's a positive, and I think we were the second best in that analysis.
Michael, I have to ask you before we go, a question that's been coming up over and over again, and deservedly so, is the question of the impact on the financial crisis. You touched on it earlier. What's your take on whether or not South Africa will indeed be affected by the financial turmoil?
I think one has to be realistic, and one will be affected certainly in the short term. There is definitely going to be a tightening up on where money is spent. It's more difficult for people, including banks, to access money. So investments are going to be scrutinized a lot more closely, and investments are going to go where there can be the maximum return with the lowest risk. And people are not going to take excessive risk and spend large amounts of money or invest large amounts of money if they're concerned about the risks.
All right, thanks very much indeed. Michael Creighton from credit management company SACE, thanks a lot for chatting to us.
Pleasure.
Now we'll take a final peek at how your markets are performing after the break. Stay with us.